Have you ever worried about things like high blood sugar or high blood pressure? You know, as you get a little older, it can feel like they're just inevitable. But what if there was a simple shift you could make? Not about what you eat, but when you eat, that can make a huge difference? Well, today, we're going to break down the simple science behind intermittent fasting and its surprising effects on these two really key health numbers. All right, let's jump right in. Here's the game plan. First, we'll talk about why these health risks are a big deal. Then we'll get into the science of how fasting affects both blood sugar and blood pressure. After that, we'll cover how you can get started safely. And finally, we'll zoom out to see how this fits into your overall health.
So first things first, let's get a really clear idea of why keeping these two numbers in check is so incredibly important for, living a long and healthy life.
It's a question a lot of us ask, right? It just feels like these things are bound to happen, that it's just a part of aging we have to accept. But the research is starting to tell a different story, and it suggests we have way more control than we think.
Just to give you a sense of the scale of this problem, wrap your head around this number. In Japan alone, more than 40 million people are estimated to have high blood pressure. I mean, this isn't some small niche issue. It is a massive public health concern that touches a huge chunk of the population.
And this really shows you how these two issues are working against our bodies. They're both bad, but in different ways. High blood sugar is like a slow, corrosive force, damaging the inside of your blood vessels over time. High blood pressure, on the other hand, is like constant physical stress, just straining your arteries day in and day out. Both roads, unfortunately, lead to a much higher risk for really serious stuff like heart attacks and strokes. They truly are silent dangers.
So knowing all that, there's this surprisingly simple idea that's getting a ton of attention lately. It's not some crazy new diet or pill, it's just about changing when you eat. Which leads us to the big question. Is this for real? Does the science actually back it up? Let's find out.
Okay, let's kick things off with blood sugar. This is where some of the most interesting research is coming from, showing a really clear connection between fasting and getting a better handle on our glucose levels.
For example, check this out. A study from Johns Hopkins University. They found that people's fasting blood sugar dropped by 5 to 6% in just 2 months. Now, that might not sound like a huge number, but in the medical world, that is a significant improvement, and it shows how quickly the body can respond.
And this wasn't just a one-off thing. That same study in the US found it improved insulin sensitivity. That's basically how well your body can use insulin. And then other research over in Europe found that for people who were fasting, the big blood sugar spike you normally get after a meal was a lot gentler. So how in the world does this work? Well, it's actually pretty simple. When you fast, you're basically giving your body a much-needed break from constantly pumping out insulin. This little vacation lets your insulin levels drop, and it gives your cells a chance to kind of reset. They become more sensitive and responsive to insulin again when you do start eating.
All right, so that's blood sugar. Now let's switch gears and talk about blood pressure, because the effects here are just as impressive, if not more so. Over in Germany, where they sometimes use fasting as a medical treatment, researchers have been watching its effects really closely. And one study found that a supervised 10-day fast led to a really significant drop in blood pressure for the people in the study.
And this chart really shows you what significant means. We're talking a 10 to 15-point drop in systolic pressure. That's the top number, right? The one that measures the pressure when your heart beats. A drop like that is a huge step in the right direction for your heart health.
So, what's going on behind the scenes? Well, it seems to be a couple of things. For one, fasting often helps with weight loss, and losing weight is a proven way to lower blood pressure. But there's more. It also seems to help balance out our nervous system, calming down that fight-or-flight response, which literally allows our blood vessels to chill out and relax.
Okay, so the science is definitely compelling, but safety is always number one. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, let's talk about the practical and, most importantly, the responsible way to even think about getting started.
The good news is you don't have to do anything extreme. The most popular way to start is the 16-8 method. That's it. You fast for 16 hours and have an 8-hour window where you eat. The main things are to stay really hydrated. Water, tea, black coffee are all great. And when it's time to eat, ease into it with a light meal. Don't shock your system.
Okay, now this part is absolutely non-negotiable. I can't stress this enough. If you are taking medication for diabetes, if you have any other chronic health conditions, or if you're pregnant or underweight, you must talk to your doctor before trying this. Seriously, fasting isn't for everyone, and you need that medical guidance.
And what's really exciting about all this is that the benefits we've been talking about, they're really just the tip of the iceberg.
They seem to be part of a much bigger wave of positive changes that can ripple through your whole body.
It turns out, this goes way beyond just blood sugar and blood pressure. Research is pointing to this cascade of positive effects in a few major areas. Weight loss, for sure, but also better brain health, improved cholesterol, and even some anti-aging effects at the cellular level.
Let's break that down. You can almost think of it as a tune-up for your entire body. Giving your digestive system that regular rest seems to kick off some really powerful internal processes. It can help reduce inflammation, and remember that cellular reset we mentioned earlier? That same kind of cleanup process is also linked to sharper focus and memory. It's a pretty amazing holistic effect.
So, if you take one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this. Intermittent fasting isn't about some crazy, restrictive diet. It is a simple but powerful shift in your timing. It's all about focusing on when you eat to give your body that crucial break it needs to repair and reset itself.
And that kind of leaves us with one final fascinating question to think about. For decades, almost all the advice has been about what we should be eating. But the science we're seeing now suggests that just changing when we eat, well, that might be one of the most powerful tools we have to take back some control of our health. Definitely some food for thought. Thanks for watching.